By the Associated Press that shows that almost 70% of Americans, including 40% of Democrats, believe that you acted either illegally or unethically in regards to your family's business interests. Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not, and it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
What's the
Mr. President, do you think there is any Democrat who could defeat Donald Trump other than you? You do believe that there are?
I'm not the only one to defeat him, but I will defeat him.
Who else do you think could defeat Donald Trump, Mr. President?
Republicans chairing the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees tonight say they will launch contempt proceedings if the president's son Hunter does not appear for closed-door deposition next week. The warning comes in a letter to Hunter Biden's attorney. Also, as House Speaker Mike Johnson moves to formalize the impeachment inquiry into President Biden with a vote next week, and as Oversight Chairman James Comer continues trying to connect the president to his yet unfounded allegations of financial impropriety, the president was asked about it this afternoon.
Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not, and it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
What's the
Well, his denial and others have done nothing to quiet House Republicans nor stop them from making allegations. The question tonight and for the days ahead is what kind of evidence do they have to back any of it up? More on that right now from CNN's Melanie Zanona.
You're seeing a very deliberate investigation uncovering and following the facts, following the truth where it leads. That's what the Constitution requires the House to do. And the House Republicans have done that very methodically.
That's House Speaker Mike Johnson, moving to formally authorize their impeachment inquiry into President Biden as soon as next week and hoping to appease the far-right members in his party.
Oh, I've been pushing for impeachment since the first day he was in office.
Republicans have leaned heavily on bank records, trying to establish a connection between Biden and his son's foreign business deals, a charge the White House has strongly denied. The Oversight Committee unveiled a new document this week revealing a payment from Hunter Biden's business entity to his father.
The president's loans to family members raise serious red flags and should have resulted in reported interest income.
What the committee didn't say was that the payment wasn't from some foreign entity, but instead was Hunter Biden repaying his father for a car. Biden was not in office at the time. Republicans have also accused the DOJ of mishandling the criminal probe into the president's son, claims brought forward by a pair of IRS whistleblowers who testified before a congressional committee this week.
They testified how investigators were prevented from following evidence that could have led to Joe Biden. Justice Department officials didn't want to talk about Dad or the big guy. Why is that? Because the evidence leads to Joe Biden.
But CNN reporting shows that DOJ and IRS officials, who have also sat for interviews in recent months, have undercut those claims.
The White House has provided over 35,000 pages of financial documents, over 2,000 pages of Treasury reports, 36 hours of testimony, and Republicans still cannot point to a single policy decision or action that Joe Biden has taken that has violated any law.
House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan still believes their most compelling evidence stems from a debunked and recycled claim that as vice president, Biden tried to pressure Ukraine to fire a top prosecutor who was investigating a Ukrainian energy company where Hunter served on the board.
This story is as old as time. You have a politician who does certain things. Those actions benefit his family financially, and then there's an effort to sweep it all under the rug. And we know this has happened. The best example is to use the Ukrainian energy company Burisma.
Yet nearly every aspect of that claim has been proven false. Biden did push for the prosecutor to be fired, but it was consistent with bipartisan U.S. policy. And the United States wanted the prosecutor fired because he was soft on corruption.
It's bizarre. There's no evidence whatsoever that it's a clown show over there in the Oversight Committee.
To wrap up their impeachment probe, Republicans want to interview over a dozen more witnesses. But their final push is proving to be a challenge. Hunter Biden has only agreed to testify in public. Now, Jordan and House Oversight Chairman James Comer are threatening to hold him in contempt of Congress if Hunter does not appear for a closed-door deposition next week.
If they're going to stop providing information, then we need to do a formal inquiry, and that's where we're at.
Now, Republicans are hoping to strengthen their subpoenas to Hunter Biden and others by taking an official vote to authorize their impeachment inquiry. But Republican leaders are still working to build support for that vote. And one Republican, Congressman Ken Buck, tells me he will vote against their impeachment inquiry, and others so far keeping their powder dry. Remember, the GOP can only afford to lose 3 Republicans on party line votes. And that majority is set to get even smaller at the end of the year when former Speaker Kevin McCarthy resigns. Anderson.
Melanie Zanona, thanks so much. Joining us now, New York Democratic Congressman Daniel Goldman, who sits on the House Oversight Committee. So, Congressman, what does it say the Republicans are holding up the repayment of a car loan from a son to his father as some smoking or quasi-smoking gun?
Well, it's almost like a new day, a new made-up lie to try to impugn Joe Biden. It is as desperate as anything that I've ever seen in Congress. There is no evidence, and they keep coming up with misleading, cherry-picked misinformation to try to tarnish Joe Biden. And almost immediately, every single time, and it's something new all the time, it comes out that actually this is a very normal transaction. It's a very documented transaction. It's a loan or a car payment or something between Joe Biden and his family. And it is truly embarrassing at this point that the House Republicans, who cannot pass any appropriations bill, cannot pass any substantive legislation to help the American people, are now resorting to a complete sham, fictional, bogus impeachment inquiry that has no evidence tying Joe Biden to any misconduct. And Anderson, I will just say, Marjorie Taylor Greene gave it away in that piece by Melanie Zanona. She said she's been pushing for Joe Biden to be impeached since day one. You can only be impeached for something you do as a president, and by day one, there is certainly nothing that Joe Biden had done that could be impeachable.
Some vulnerable House Republicans are now signaling their support for an impeachment probe, and CNN is reporting Speaker Mike Johnson now appears likely to have enough votes to open a formal inquiry. What, if anything, do you think would be different about the process at that point?
Well, they're using a brand new rationale because the goalposts keep moving, that somehow the administration is stonewalling them, and so they need an official inquiry in order to get the information. Let's be very clear, as my colleague Ted Lieu said in that piece. They have received over 36,000 bank records, 2,000 documents from Treasury Department, numerous hours of testimony from administration officials. Donald Trump, during his first impeachment in 2019, provided 0 documents to the Democrats. So what they are now asking for, they either have or will get or should never be asking for in the first place. There's no stonewalling here. It's a fictional fig leaf to try to coerce the party to start an impeachment inquiry.
So do you have any doubt that they ultimately will try to impeach the president? Because otherwise, what is their off-ramp from this investigation? They've appeared so much on, cable outlets trumping this thing up. How did they get out of it?
I don't know how they get out of it. They should never have gotten into it. Normally, you do an investigation, as we did in the first impeachment, where we had 17 fact witnesses who came in, and then you had public hearings with fact witnesses. In this case, they have reached their conclusions, and now they're trying to backfill the facts. They had one public hearing that was a complete disaster, where the witnesses said that Joe Biden should not be impeached based on what they've seen. They have not had another public hearing now, and they don't want another public hearing. Hunter Biden is prepared to come in and testify publicly under oath before all of the American people. And Jim Jordan, who defied a subpoena and did not come in to testify in the last Congress, actually wrote a letter to Hunter Biden saying that he would be held in contempt if he were to comply with the subpoena with a public hearing instead of a closed-door testimony. Give me a break. This is a clown show, as my colleague Zoe Lofgren said, and it is really bringing shame to the House of Representatives.
Congressman Daniel Goldman, thanks for your time.